I think we spent around 2.5 to 3 lakhs to build it and centrize it. Huge heap of mud falls on them. So that was fruitcake. Considering that, I came up with an idea called perspective.
Can we now talk about the scary looking labs where most of this happened? Really scare the shit out of you. How did you go about designing the labs?
So for the conversion therapy lab, I came up with a sketch to look.
Now that we've spoken about the Triple T world, let's get into each space that you've created for this world, right? I'm sure there are a lot of spaces. Let's start with corridor to begin with. How did you achieve that?
Corridor was the first set we started to construct in the world of Triple Three because that was taking the most of our space in the studio because we wanted it to be as long as possible and most of the sequences happened there. Considering that, I came up with an idea called perspective, which is majorly used in Hollywood to create sets and create the illusion of depth, but it has camera limitations. That's why we did not go with that option, otherwise it could have been really fun and challenging to create that. But this corridor we built for around 100 feet depth. It started with the structure and we went on with the cement boards, and I did not use plywood because I strictly wanted to use cement for texturing.
Right.
Cement would not stick to MDF or ply. That's the reason I went for cement boards as such. Even if you see the form of the corridor, it is not a rectangle which I went for. The cross section has a little octagonal shape, like it has those edges going, which increases the field of depth a little more. The height also, when we were trying to make it as compact as possible, for two people should fit in when they're walking, and the huge tall guy Mojo, who's trying to scare Triple Three every time he's going to punish him. So when he's walking, we wanted him to feel so massive, so huge. We tried to cheat with reducing the height of the corridor to his head. It just barely touches it. So that's what we went for, to make it look more compact.
Inescapable. You can't get away from that place.
Coming to the details of the corridor, we had multiple doors that director wanted to have a lot of subjects in the doors which were going many experiments, not just the three. So the doors, the knobs, the switches, everything was there for a reason. Since it's an abandoned power plant, we left those non-working wires on the corridor.
I've also noticed pipes.
It's like they acquired this property and they added their own sewage connections. So that's why the pipes are also overlapping and they're coming from nowhere and they just were going somewhere. So plant references for the pipes as well, but the script wouldn't demand that. So we stuck to this design and this sort of arrangement. And I was very specific on making the floor darker to add that contrast of depth. Otherwise it will look very flat in camera. And the edges of the walls also I blended with a lot of dust and the amber powder so that it doesn't look like a set and it looks more believable that it was there since ages.
Crazy. So we know that there are more than 2-3 spaces. Now, the corridor have any synchrony with other sets?
All the sets were connected to each other.
Oh wow!
I had a layout, like the corridor would extend to a T-shape and the T-shape would have 2 other rooms, which would be lab and another shower area which they undergo. Even Triple Three's room was connected to the corridor so that all the sequences would be shot like that, because when he's popping his head out of the door, he's into the corridor. So we have to have that connection, which makes it easier for the script in terms of choreography and the staging. So it was all pre-planned and constructed in that manner.
Very well. On that note, can I know a little bit more about Triple Three room?
It's a very minimalistic room, but I had a lot of fun doing that room. All the walls were hand painted. Each wall there is a mural to me. But considering the dimensions and the size of it, initially we had double the size of that room so that we could shoot comfortably with cameras. We wanted the walls to be removable or movable. So I was not okay with that idea because I'm very specific about the edges being blended. You know it's a set when you can see 2 plywood or two walls just joining like that and there's a gap in between. So I don't prefer to leave those. I blend that as well. I told him whenever you're going to move it, that's something which will always be there. Would you be able to give me time during the shoot to be able to cover that? He said no, we wouldn't have that time. Then I said then it's not a good idea or a great idea to go for that option. That's when he said okay fine, you built a small compact room, I'll see to it if we can shoot in the same room.
Right.
So that's how we went for a smaller room. That's why you feel that very claustrophobic and so vulnerable when you escape.
Right.
That's the size mattered
and the placement of that tiny window that they have,
which hardly gives light to him, or he can hardly access the outside world. He's just confined and he doesn't know what day it is, what year it is, where is he. He knows nothing about it. So that's how the room was supposed to make it feel confidential in terms of him not being able to access outside information as well. No, the room again has very minimal set dressing.
Like the commode.
Yeah, so
and all of
we
that.
went very minimal to show how ruthless these guys are, who didn't even provide him with a bed. And they don't care how he lives or how want to use him like a lab rat. That's why the minimal resources
approach towards that room.
Yes.
Crazy. So did you have any references for this? Mana Khaidis, Malaga, ala references unnena?
No, I just went through these actual prisons and get in asylums.
Right.
What do they give them?
Can we now talk about the scary looking labs? How did you go about designing the labs?
So for the therapy, the conversion therapy lab, I came up with a sketch as to how it should look. I'm very specific about placement of each prop there in terms of set dressing, because the director had shared his storyboards with me.
Right.
He has these line drawings wherein he'll sketch 333 sitting on a chair, or Ara is looking through the partition, something like that. He'll give me a storyboard with which I understand as to what all portions of the lab, certain
elements.
Yes, elements, and where to place them, how to design the lab. So whatever we had in the sketch is sketch to reality. The transformation happened, I would say 90% of it. Only the 10% was changed according to the camera every time we were shooting.
Right.
But the tiles were inspired from Shape of Water, and for the partitions, he gave me a very specific reference that I want it to be, translucent and
stained a little.
Yes. So we tried to do that aging there, and we had an exit door, we had an entrance electrocuted door, and we had the chair in the center, because that was the most important part of that lab in that scene, wherein the conversion therapy is happening. Cute. Projector there which is trying to project the images on the wall, which was again hand painted, and that's the texture you see behind the images.
Right.
So everything was well thought and
logically put together.
Yes.
With regards to the characters.
We knew where what scene was going to happen, what are the elements needed. Accordingly, that lab was.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Dr. Bakshi's lab rearranged from the therapy lab. The same resources. Majorly, the partition became the wall of Dr. Bakshi's lab, the lobotomy where it takes place, and we put blinds there, and from which 333 sees the drums actually being loaded in a truck. So all of that was pre-planned, because the director was very specific that I need him to look through blinds. I need you to incorporate blinds in this set. I need the glass windows. So I was like, instead of constructing the entire thing, let's reuse the partitions. And he and the DOP was smart enough to light it in such a way that rearrangement worked brilliantly for us, and it looks like a new separate lab.
Right.
Just with few adjustments here and there, and rearranging the props. And 333 is shit scared when he sees Dr. Bakshi operating a child with lobotomy process, right? Yeah. So that lab was meant to feel scary and very dark place, but still has Bakshi's personal. It looks like Bakshi's personal space with his specimens in the jars, and he has his own tools there, which 333 happens to steal them for Beardman. So everything was pre-planned according to the scene. again, I would say the writing or the script really helped me to think in a perspective to design the lab accordingly.
To dig deep.
Yes.
And like
Otherwise,
really
it would have
understand.
been any random lab.
Do you want to go to the next one and talk about the tunnel? Triple Tree actually starts digging in his room and then goes to this tunnel. So how did that happen?
So the tunnel, we shot it in 2 different parts.
Oh, okay.
Like whatever they're digging in the room was actually dug in the room.
Oh, okay.
In the same span of a single day, we started with placing tiles there and then scraping and removing it. Like they remove it in the scene,
Right.
and then we dig little deeper. After that shot, we dug it even more deeper, wherein they can jump into it. So then we get that shot, throwing the mud into the pot. So all of that was planned and in the room itself. Later when they have the crawling scenes, right?
Right.
So that initially we thought we would shoot in a sewage cement pipe.
Oh,
the
okay.
huge
Okay,
pipes.
yeah.
But we realized that it's not easy to shoot the side view of that shot.
Right.
So then we split the pipes into half. I constructed 2 different parts of pipe attached with metal supports, so that when we bring it together, it's
Still a circle. It's still a tunnel. Yeah.
right. When we split it apart, you can have your side shots. But also, since it's a tunnel digged in mud, I preferred using mud itself. So I used the clay, the
Bangamatti.
sculpted the tunnels.
Uh-huh.
Kinda koda we put lot of mud.
So there was actual sculpting involved there because it looked like an actual dug tunnel.
Yes.
అంటే దాని మించి కొంచెం పడిపోతూ ఇలాగా ఇసుక మట్టి పడిపోతూను బట్ బంకమట్టితో అది అలా ఒకసారి మనం పెట్టే కదా అలాగా ఇట్ స్టే ట్రూ టు ఇట్స్ షేప్ రైట్ హౌ డిడ్ యూ అచీవ్ దట్ ఇంకా ఎక్స్ట్రా ఎందుకంటే ఇట్ వాస్ ఓన్లీ ప్రాబ్లీ యాజ్ బిగ్ యాజ్
human can just crawl.
యా సో మీరు అది ఎలా అచీవ్ చేశారు?
So whenever these guys walk and something is falling on them, like huge heap of mud falls on them. So that was fruit cake.
Wow!
So fruit cake was smashed into small things, and whenever the shot was going on, and there would be a cue, and the cake would be put on the actors.
Very nice.
And,
what about the part where he comes up? So
out of the tunnel,
out
right?
of the tunnel.
Yeah, that is another day, another location we shot in.
Oh.
Like we took a huge go down in Amberpet, and I had to build a huge compound wall. So all the corridor walls were reused here and made into a huge 100-feet wall.
Oh wow.
And so the pit, I just dug a small pit and covered it with the polythene. Even I sat in it and tested if I'm fitting in, because if I fit in, Samaj will fit in. So after he sat, we used to cover it with a plastic sheet, and on top of it, I used to dress it up with the mud. And he had a tool, right? So he would just pierce through it and pop out.
Oh, okay. So like the piercing happens through the plastic sheet. Okay. That's why you have that feel that
and
he's like the.
We were very careful with the plastic sheet being not visible in the scene, because we can't show that. The other shot was we remove the plastic and Samad's head pops out. That's when Mojo catches him. So yeah, that's how we shot that.
Oh, that's fun. That's really good. Can we circle back into the asylum and talk more about the control room?
So this scene was added much later after the edit was completed.
Oh.
That we needed this for people to connect dots. So by the time this was being shot, the director was like, we'll shoot it in the office room, we'll just set up monitors and shoot it. I was like, why? No. When everything is so grand, why do you want to compromise here? Let's build a set, and I'm going to construct it in as less as possible. And I think we spent around 2.5 to 3 lakhs to build it and centric it. Most of the major chunk went into renting the monitors itself, but otherwise the construction is where I could save. Coming to the design of the room, I did not wanted a rectangular room. I was very specific on going for an octagonal shape.
Why so?
Because Appatlo, that was the shape you see very often, and with the French glass windows, that's how
the big windows
those British era asylums or rooms were. So I wanted to get that royalty here because this room belongs to Bakshi and the general's meetings only. And it's a control room. You watch everybody there who's working there or the subjects who are being treated.
You have complete authority in that room.
Yes, so this room is the most sophisticated of all the other rooms.
Right.
It has to reflect that.
Right.
As subtle as possible. And coming to the table also, I made sure that it is very elongated and not just a small table chair.
There's a distance between.
Yeah, I wanted to look like a conference table, but there are only 2 chairs because only 2 important people are sitting and having that conversation. And that space, the distance between them is the hierarchy which I'm trying to show in terms of the seating. That, similar. They're not close to each other. They have certain power dynamics. That's what I wanted to show, and that's why the table is also very clean and nothing is placed. It's just emphasizing
on the purpose of the meeting. That's it.
Yes. Rest all the files and the monitors, all of that was to show the data being stored there. It's a pure control room with all the data which the general can come and check whenever he needs to order Bakshi to do the...
Right. Also, the part where you said big windows, I feel like for a control room to have big windows, and in the movie also you can see that the window is, through the window you can see the whole, snow anni, mottam property chuda snow. So I really like the fact that, and no escape, annadi aa window to naku telusindi. So those are really great nuances that you've added.